Here with Half Dozen Customs. We're back out here for a little Monte Monday action. We left off last week with getting the trans support mounted and testing the drive shaft. And we got that other transmission installed. Now there was a little issue with putting in the trans mount. I had to kind of shift the whole motor and trans over a little bit to get it to bolt in. But once we did that, it was fine. And as far as I know, so I went to Ace a couple days ago and I grabbed all new hardware for mounting that trans mount in. And when I took out the center bolt that goes into the bottom of the trans mount, nothing moved. So we may have just not had it sitting properly. I don't know what happened, but nothing moved when I unbolted that. Like the transmission, if it was under pressure, it should have popped back over that half an inch, and it didn't. So we should be okay with that, but I can't cut that trans mount part back off and readjust it and weld it back on because I'm out of welded gas. So gotta run out and go get that. I don't think we're gonna be doing that today. So what we're gonna start with is we're gonna put the rear end under load, and we're gonna check to see if that drive shaft slips out, because like I said before, there's maybe like 3/4 of an inch before that transmission and drive shaft bottom out together, and that's just, we can't have that. So if it doesn't move to where we have more slack in there, then we got to do one of two things. We either got to shorten the drive shaft probably an inch and a half, or we got to move the motor forward an inch and a half. So now I did talk to my one buddy who is the one that suggested I put in the other trans, and he told me not to move the motor. I sent him several pictures of where the motor was sitting in the engine compartment, and he said that it is sitting where it should be sitting. So, but I'm gonna move a couple things underneath here so we can get a jack underneath the rear end. I think I gotta move some tires that are under there. And then I'm gonna set you guys up underneath there. Hopefully you guys can see the drive shaft. And we'll get a jack under here and we'll cycle it and see if it moves. So let me get these tires moved and get you set up under the car. Okay, let's get a jack under the rear end, and you're gonna want to watch right in between there and see if this pulls out. So as soon as I tried to jack up the rear end, like, it lifted the car immediately. So now there's no shocks in the back, it's only springs, and they're the original springs from the car. And I'll show you guys here in a second, like the gap in the wheel well is like, it's like this big. So the rear end is not going up. Now I did, put a little weight on the trunk and got the car to bounce, and it feels like it's bouncing on the springs. But what I think is going on is that when we put that rear end back in and back together, we tightened it up with the suspension down. So I think what we need to do is we need to go in, we need to loosen everything up for like the lower control arms and the upper control arms, and loosen everything, and then jack the rear end up as high as it'll go, and then retighten it. I think because we tightened it with the rear end all the way down, it's being held there. And if you remember, like, we painted and POR 15'd everything and then put it all together, like, you know, a week or two later, and then tightened everything up. So I think it's kind of locked in place. So I think that's what we're gonna have to do next is go back there and loosen everything, and try and get the suspension to cycle, because I don't think that suspension cycled at all. And there's not much that's missing from that back end, other than like the bumpers, which, you know, there's a steel bumper that goes back there, and then there's a plastic cover that goes over it. That can't be more than 50, 60 pounds. So I can't see, you know, that causing that much of a weight difference, that there's not enough weight in the back of the car to get it to squat down. Now, I know if I go back and I look at pictures and videos of where this car was sitting before we started, I know that those rear tires were up in the wheel well, or at least darn close to it. So I know that we had a set of like aluminum with the holes going all the way around. In the very beginning, we had those wheels on here, which I got those wheels for this car to just kind of roll around the shop on, so that it looked cool. But the lug pattern is wrong, and I couldn't get the wheels. They don't work on this car. It's just the wrong lug pattern. But I want to say that, like, you know, there was only like this much room between like the top of the tire and the, you know, where the wheel lip is. I'll have to go back and look, but there I know there wasn't that much room. And if you look at these now, you know, that's a lot of room. And these, I want to say, are these, what size are they? So these are 15. So the wheels that came off of this car were 14s. So yeah, that's probably somewhere between 8 and 9 inches. And these tires, these rims and tires are bigger than what was on here before. So yeah, like I said, so that's like 8 to 9 inches of difference between the top of the tire and the top of the wheel well arch. There's no way that's right. That tire should be like tucked up in there. And being, so the wheels that we did have on here, those aluminum ones, I think those were 15s, and they had a lower profile tire on them, and they were almost, you know, they were almost touching the top of the wheel well. So, or not the tub, but the wheel well arch. So we definitely got something going on back there that's holding us up. So I'm gonna go back and look at some pictures and some videos and just make sure that we didn't have something like that. It just doesn't seem right. And then I guess we'll get underneath there and we'll try and loosen all that stuff up. If you remember any of that, some of that stuff was a real pain in the butt to get to. So, because it's inside the frame. But I know for a fact when you, like, if you replace all that stuff with all brand new stuff, Like, you don't want to tighten everything up until it's sitting at right height. Like, you want to tighten it at right height. Because if you tighten that stuff up when, like, the rear end is in full droop, like it is now, and then you put the car on the ground, it will actually rip and tear those rubber isolators in there. So you always want to tighten that stuff up at right height. And I think that that's what our problem is right now. So let me check some pictures and video and we'll be right back. Okay, so I went through a whole bunch of different videos on our channel, and I only found one video where the car's actually sitting on the ground, and it has the stock 14-inch wheels on it, and it's kind of in the background, so you can't really get a good view of it, but it looks to be about the same as what we got now. It just looks like this tiny little wheel in the middle of this giant opening. So I need to go and look at pictures. I went in to see if Colleen could pull up some pictures, and she's on a meeting right now, so I couldn't bother her. So I decided to Google how much space should there be between the drive shaft and the back of the transmission slip yoke on a 1981 Chevy Monte Carlo. And it says at right height it should be no more than 3/4 to 1 inch, and we are at 7/16 or some, or 7/8. We are just under 1 inch, like an eighth under 1 inch. So according to Google, we're in the right spot. So it seems a little close to me. But as I was underneath there and I was kind of looking at everything, where the transmission is mounted, like, we didn't change any of that. The only thing that I changed on there was I moved that center bracket, because the original trans mount that was on there, it had a bracket so it had this. So this was the trans mount that was on the Monte Carlo. This bolted to the center of to the bottom of the transmission, and it shifted that bracket over to where this is. And all we did was we cut that bracket off and moved it over here so that we could just mount it to the bottom of the transmission and eliminate this. It's all we changed. So we just slid this over. That should not have changed the placement of that transmission at all. I mean, if anything, maybe a 1/4 of an inch I could see, like, it got, but on that trans mount that we cut off and moved over, it is slotted. So, even if we moved that over and it moved forward a little bit, or it moved backwards a little bit, it only moved in the slot of that actual bracket, not the transmission itself. So that transmission should be sitting very, very close to where it was sitting with that V6 in there, because we didn't change nothing. All we really changed was a motor. It's still the factory transmission in there. It's still the factory trans mount. We just eliminated that bracket. So it's got to be where it's supposed to be sitting. Um, so I think what we're gonna do next, I'm not gonna worry about loosening that transmission or doing anything, or I'm sorry, loosening that rear end and trying to, loosen it, put some weight on it, tighten it back up. Because at the very least, that rear end has to come back out and it has to get rebuilt because it leaked all its fluid out in the shop. Once we started working on it, it just started leaking from the front seal of the rear end and it leaked all its fluid out. So we need to rebuild that rear end. And I've been looking into that. If we just replace all the seals, it's $30 or something, and we take it all apart and we replace all the seals. And I am planning on lowering this car. We are at the very least, I'm looking at I think it's just 2-inch lowering springs. I think that's about all you can get. I think you can get 1 inch and you can get 2-inch lowering springs. So we're looking into that. So that's all going to change when we redo all that stuff. So we're going to put different springs in it. We're going to put new shocks in. We need to rebuild that rear end, at least all the seals wise. So the rear end's coming out, new springs are going in, new shocks are going in. We can loosen and adjust all that when that happens. All that stuff back there, the control arms, all that stuff that we did the PR15 on, we took it all out, PR15 did, put it all back in. All the bushings in there are shot, they're all garbage. So those need to be replaced. I looked into new ones. They're not super expensive. I think it's like a couple $100 for the whole kit. 200 and something. It was between like 200 and 300. So we should probably do that. We are redoing the whole front end. That's going to be all brand new. So might as well do the back end too. I've been looking at, they have a nice kit that I would like to get, but it's pricey. It's $3,000, and it's all tubular, front and back, control arms, new sway bars, coilover setup. It's a touring package for this vehicle. So I've been looking at that. Somehow we can swing that. I would like to do that. And this upcoming summer, there is a possibility that will happen. So I'm not really going to worry about that stuff too much right now. I think what we're going to end up doing, like I said, for today's video, besides sitting here and talking the whole time, I did get new hardware for the trans mount. So I think we'll take that trans mount out and we'll get it painted, and then maybe a little later on this evening we can get it reinstalled. We'll have to see. It is cold out. We had this little cold spell come through. It was 20 degrees when I woke up this morning. Last week we were in the 60s. Next week, or this upcoming week, it's Monday. This upcoming week, we're supposed to be back in the 50s and 60s. So we are coming into winter. It's not going to last forever. But, we did have this little cold spell. We got a bunch of snow and stuff like that. So, we'll have to check the dryness on it. I did pick up some more paint while I was out too, some more 2-in-1. So I guess I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna get a nice fresh cup of hot coffee. and we will get this trans mount pulled out. I think where the rusty areas are, we're going to spray it with my rust killer, and then we'll just get it painted. So yeah, and I think that's probably going to be it for today's video. Today's going to be a short video. I apologize about that. But the trans mount is the next thing on the list to get done. And then I don't know, I gotta sit and think about where we're going next. Are we gonna get this motor running and driving, or what? I don't know. You know, another thing that is on the list next year to do is to build, to make a dashboard in here. I think we're just gonna make our own custom dashboard. In order to do that, I gotta get some sheet metal. So, don't know. Gonna have to think about it. We'll be back. Okay, so we got this out. I'm gonna spray this on here. This is a rust killing acid. Alright, we'll let that soak for a few minutes. We'll hit it up with the scuff pad, and then we'll dry it off. We gotta grind down this little weld over here real quick, and then as long as it's good and dry, we'll spray some black on there. Okay, well, while we're waiting for that, if you guys haven't seen any videos of that stuff that I sprayed on there, you can go back, check out our project videos. It should be in there. It'll also be in previous Monte Carlo videos where we're working on the front fenders. And what it is it's Klean Strip, concrete, and metal prep. Stuff works awesome. You can get it at Menards. I think it's like 20 bucks for a gallon. So well worth getting in the automotive industry for prepping metal and cleaning rust. So and then also I did go inside to get my coffee, and Colleen was off of her meeting, so we were able to go search through some of our pictures of the Monte Carlo and whatnot, and I totally forgot that a couple years back our hard drive had crashed and we lost a ton of stuff, and unfortunately the Monte Carlo getting here and being on a trailer and all that stuff is all gone, but we did find one video that we had posted on Facebook of when I got it running when we very first got here, and I got the V6 running, and those back wheels are damn near tucked in the wheel well. So I do think that we still have an issue going on with how we tightened up all that suspension with all the weight off of the rear end, and the rear end being in full droop. So we will, like I said, we will address that later. There's still a bunch of suspension work that's got to get done to this, and we'll deal with that then. I think our transmission is in the correct spot, so we're just gonna go with it, and we'll see what happens. For some odd reason, we get the whole car done, and we find out that that's a problem. I'll take drive shaft in somewhere, or we'll shorten it ourselves, and we'll deal with that later. So, red scuff pad. Just gonna hit this with the scuffy. All right, we're gonna give this some time to dry. You can see how clean it got, a lot of it. Now, you know, we could sandblast this and get it all clean. You know, we could work on this for hours with that spray and a wire wheel, and I bet we could get this thing all bare metal again. But we're not going to. We're just gonna paint it the way that it is. And the good thing with this metal prep stuff is that it deneutralizes the rust. So when you deneutralize the rust, it stops it from growing. So we'll let this dry. It should deneutralize everything. I'm not saying it's a 100% fix, but it is a big help. And then we'll just paint over the top of it, and we should be good to go for many years to come. This is something that you should do too before you use stuff like PR15 or some of that other rust proofing stuff. I'm not a fan of PR15 anymore. I used to be a big fan of it. I think that they changed something over the years, the chemical part of it, and it's just not the same stuff anymore. But you definitely need to do this before using it. So it also helps prep the metal, the bare metal, so that the PR15 has something to stick to. If you just try and PR15 over just strictly bare metal, like you have seen me do around here, it doesn't stick very well. And that's part of why I don't like PR15 anymore. I believe that 15, 20 years ago, it was a different product, and you didn't really have that problem. I could be wrong, but I've been using PR15 forever, and I don't remember having such problems with it as you do nowadays. Next time that I'm gonna get something, you guys will see. I think it's the Eastwood stuff that we are going to be switching to that. So instead of using the PR15, this we're just gonna rattle can. So I'm done talking about that stuff. We'll be back to put some paint on this. See you guys back here in a minute. Okay, we're back out here. We let this sit and chill for, I don't know, probably a few hours. It's just a cold, snowy day out here. Wasn't really feeling it. Pretty much our first snowfall of the year, and I just don't look forward to this time of year. So, but let's, we got to grind down that weld, and then we'll hang this up and we'll get it painted. And then maybe we'll pull the dashboard out and we'll get, or not the dashboard, drive shaft, and we'll get that sprayed down, and let that sit, and maybe tomorrow or something we'll get that drive shaft painted. So yeah, let's get the grinder here. Alright, let's get some paint shaken up and get over here and get a coat on this. Okay, so we got a coat on that. Again, it is very cold out here. So I'm gonna give this extra time to sit. We'll put a few coats on there. And then being that it is very pitted and rusty at the ends, I'm probably gonna end up putting a flat matte clear on there just so that the shinier it is, the more it's gonna show it. So if we make it kind of a flat matte black, I think it'll look better underneath there. So and yes, I know that we did paint over rust. I've said this before. It is one of those pieces that is easily accessible and easily removable. And if sometime down the road something starts to come back, we can always pull it out, sandblast it, and repaint it, and it'd be easy to do. So so it's not one of those parts that I'm really too worried about. And yeah, if it would have fit in my sandblasting cabinet, we would have blasted it up, but it's just too big of a piece. So we will we'll be back. Like I said, I'm gonna give this some time to set up. I'll put a couple more coats on it. We'll probably be back to put some flat matte clear on there. So we'll see you guys back here in a little bit. Okay, we got it all black. I got some flat matte clear here we're gonna spray on here. If you haven't watched me do this stuff before, this is what I use. It is an automotive flat matte, and you gotta do one of two things. You either gotta let it completely dry 100% before you put this on, or you do it while it's still wet. If you do it too late, like if it sits up too much, it'll wrinkle on you. If you try and come back out the next day, it'll wrinkle on you. If you try and come back out like a few days later, it'll wrinkle up on you. Like, you have to let it dry for weeks before you can put this stuff on. So I do it while it's still wet, and 9 out of 10 times we don't have any problems. So now it is entirely way too cold to be painting this stuff, but we gotta get it done anyways. This stuff has a super wide fan on it. It's real nice. Okay, I will give it a few minutes. We will put one more coat on there, and then we will show it to you guys tomorrow, and you'll get to see the how I flattened up that black. I think before we end this video, we're gonna soak down the drive shaft with that rust stuff, same stuff we sprayed on this before. So stay tuned for that. Okay, finished painting that trans mount. I hung it up on the other side of the shop, and I'm gonna try and clean as much of this up as I can with the wire wheel. It's really gunky. Remember I told you that rear end seal leaks here, and then it looks like the trans seal was leaking, which we have had some drips underneath there since we put the drive shaft back in. So you know, it's awfully gunky at both ends. I don't know what we're gonna do to try and get that cleaned up, but we're gonna have to try and get it cleaned up somehow. But first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get as much of it cleaned with the wire wheel as we can. So if you notice that we've been over here all day working on stuff over here. The Jeep is back to finish painting it. So that is on that side, and we can't get nothing dirty over there. So we gotta keep the dirt to over here. We got a lot of that cleaned up. The only thing that can't get cleaned up is like inside where the U-joint is. I'm gonna grab my drill with my little cone guy on there. See if we can get in there a little bit. Probably what we'll end up doing is we'll just end up painting it, and then, you know, I'm sure before this thing hits the road permanently, we'll probably end up redoing those U-joints, and then we can clean up the ends where the U-joints are and just so. But yeah, let me get the drill with the cone guy on it, and we'll see what else we can get cleaned up here. Alright, we're gonna let that, just gonna let that sit and do its thing for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll wipe it off. And then we'll come back in the morning and we'll hang it up and we'll get it painted. So. Okay, well, that's it for tonight. We'll let that sit and freeze overnight. Because it is cold and snowing out at the moment. I don't know if you guys can see through the windows there, but Colin's truck is parked right there, covered in snow. It's sitting out there because the bed for the Jeep has been all painted and buffed and everything's ready to put back together, and it is sitting in her garage while we paint the rest of the Jeep. So almost done with that. You guys have been following along. Those videos are way behind. I've said that many times that those videos are behind, but still out here videoing every day on it. And we're getting really close to being done here, so. But we'll come out here, we'll hang this up tomorrow, and we'll get some paint on it, and then maybe tomorrow night we'll get it installed. So tomorrow it should start to, tomorrow's going to be about like today was, cold and snowy, but tomorrow night it should start warming back up, and we're supposed to be in the 50s and 60s by the end of the week. So which is good. I need the nice weather to hold out long enough to get the Jeep painted. Anyways, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Okay, we're back out here the next morning, and we are going to put this piece in just to get it out of our way. We got some new hardware for everything. Okay, well, we got, for the most part, we got that in. I still have this one bolt that we need to put in, which it's right underneath the jack stand, so we gotta move this jack stand. And then still just gotta tighten everything up. So now let's hang up that drive shaft and we'll get that painted, and yeah. Okay. We got the drive shaft hung up here. I'm gonna tape off our slip part down here. Alright, let's get some paint. Okay. Gonna do light coats again. Same thing as last night. I'll put a few coats on here, and then we're gonna hit it with a couple coats of the what do you call it, the flat matte clear. So last night when we put the flat matte clear on, we put it on a little too soon. I know I told you that, you know, you want to put it on wet, but there is, so you don't want it to be too dry or it'll crack on you, but you don't want it to be too wet or it will cause separation of the black. So this black, it's Rust-Oleum, and it's the same brand that we're using with the clear. This is the paint and primer stuff, you know, indoor, outdoor, general purpose paint. And this is, don't hold me to it, I would have to read through the whole thing, but oil-based. That clear is lacquer. So So those two don't mix. But if you get the timing right, it works perfectly. What I had to do with that piece last night was that after it had separated, I let it sit a few extra minutes. I went and I dusted a little bit of black back over where it had separated, and then I let it sit again, and then we went back with the flat matte clear, and we didn't have no problems then. With it being cold, like, you really gotta give it some extra time to set up. You know, during the summer, like, you literally have a few minutes between putting the black on to putting the clear on. Last night, you know, I waited 7-8 minutes and I put the clear on, and it wasn't long enough because of how cold it is outside. So we're gonna give, you know, I'm probably gonna give 10 minutes between each coat of black, and then we'll probably give a good 10 or 15 minutes, I would say, before we put the flat matte clear on. So, now what happened last night wasn't a big deal. It just took a few extra minutes because I had to go back to the block. But we'll be back. Okay, back out here with the flat matte clear. Got a few more coats put on this. Actually put an extra coat on it. This is weird. There's a couple of spots on this whenever they never rusted, and those spots did not want to cover with paint, so must have been some really good oil soaked metal right there. But a couple extra coats and we're good to go. All right, we'll let that set up probably about 10 minutes or so, and we'll put another coat on it. This piece here, I'm not really worried about it wrinkling up because it's so pitted from all the rust that even if it wrinkled, you wouldn't notice it. But when you have a nice flat piece, you know, that's why I explained how I do it, because if you have a nice piece, you want it to stay nice. But we'll probably see you guys, well, not probably, we will see you guys next week for the installation of this. I'm not going to install it in this video because somewhere over there is the hardware for the U-joint to the drive shaft. So I have to move these couple of Jeep parts out of the way and go through all that stuff. It's all bagged up. I just got to find it. It's in there somewhere. We need to clean that workbench off anyways. That workbench was supposed to be for me working. There's an anvil there. There's a metal bender there. You know, there's a light that was under there. I removed it and put it in my toolbox. We have a new light to put up there, a bigger light. So I'd like that to be a workbench. Like, we built that workbench and then I piled it full of stuff and I've never been able to work on it. I think I've worked on it once. So next Monday, I believe we will be probably cleaning up that workbench, finding anything that we need that we could, you know, put back together. Like, I see the gas pedal sitting there. You know, we can put the gas pedal back in and get that all hooked up to the motor. You know, a lot of the stuff is garbage. Like, you know, the wiper motor, if I remember correctly, Colleen said that the wipers didn't work, so we need a new wiper motor. The brakes are trash, so all that stuff is garbage. The front end control arms, all that stuff needs to be replaced. So You know, I don't want to get rid of any of the steering stuff, because if for some odd reason I need to move this car, I can put it back together and we can move it. But it all that, most of that stuff over there is getting replaced. Excuse me. So I think we need to kind of go through it, and you know, the stuff that we need to hang on to for the moment, but it needs to be replaced, I think we're just going to toss in the back of my pickup truck out there. And then the stuff that can go back on the car, we need to put it in the shed with the rest of the stuff. So I think we'll be doing that next Monday, and then getting this installed. Maybe next Monday we will another thing that we need to find amongst cleaning all this stuff is the wiring harness I'm going to use for this. Colleen bought me a wiring harness for the 47 one year for Christmas, brand new, because I put the motor in that 47, but I never wired it up and got it running because I couldn't get the drive shaft to go into the back of the transmission completely. And we struggled. We tried everything to get that in. And from what I have researched online, and Colleen's uncle actually did some research too, and he's the one that said to take the transmission off the motor and install the transmission and then put your motor in. So we have yet to try that. So I'm going to take the wiring harness that she got me for that, and we're going to use it on this. It's just a standalone wiring kit. So we need to find that too. And I think that that's the next thing that we're going to do, is we're going to wire that up, start wiring that up and get it ready to get running. We need to I need to do the headers. We need to get those sandblasted, painted, and then wrapped. We're gonna wrap them. I have everything to do it in the Amazon cart. So just gotta order that stuff and get that here so that we can get those headers wrapped and get those installed in the car. And then we'll be able to, I showed you guys last week that we got the exhaust. So once we get the headers in the car, we can start messing with that exhaust and find out what we're going to do with that, where they're going to sit. You know, maybe they'll work perfect on this car. Worst case scenario, I'm going to cut them off right past the muffler. And I'm going to get the triangle flanges with the three. Excuse me. I'm going to get the triangle flanges that normally like would bolt off the back of the header. I'm going to order a set of those, and we'll weld those on to the exhaust just past the muffler. And then I'm just going to put some turn downs on it for now. And then when the car is done, I'll take it up to the exhaust shop, and they can just make me a thing that bolts on, that comes back out. I think we'll just put duals out the back. But need all the suspension done and on the ground, lowered where we want it, the wheels on it and everything before we run that exhaust up and over the rear end, because we might not even be able to, once the car is lowered, there might not be enough room to run the exhaust up and over the rear end, and we might be stuck with just the turn downs. But that's a long ways down the road. But the headers, those I think will be coming up here soon, once we get it wired up and we're ready to start it. We're not going to wire it up fully, go crazy with anything. We're just basically going to get it in the car, hooked up to an ignition, and be able to fire the motor up. So but yeah, so that's the next couple things that I think we're going to be seeing here over the next month or so. So look forward to that. Next week we'll do a little cleaning and some assessing, and hopefully putting this drive shaft back in. So we'll see you guys then. Remember to like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. Hope you guys are enjoying these videos. I'm out.